We'll go ahead and call tonight's regular city council meeting to order. For tonight's invocation, we've got Pastor Steve Switzer of the Calvary Baptist Church. Pastor.
Our Father in heaven, we thank you for allowing us to be together tonight, and thank you for this beautiful day that we've enjoyed, and just for your blessings. Lord, I thank you for this meeting, and I thank you for the leaders that you've called in this position. I pray that you bless their lives for doing what you've called them to do, and Lord, give them wisdom as you preside over this meeting, and give them wisdom as they decide for the affairs of this town and for the affairs of this community. And Lord, I just pray that each of us would know you, and Lord, that we would be able to thank you in this season of Thanksgiving for all that you've done and all that you've been in our lives. Lord, we love you and pray for your blessing tonight in Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Larry Budd.
Here.
Sean Bertle.
Here.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Here.
Rob Heatherly.
Here.
Bruce Jones.
Here.
Ray Coontz. Martin Voda.
Here.
Earl Walters.
Here.
All 8 aldermen present. First thing we have is a motion to utilize the omnibus vote
Second.
for approval of the minutes of the previous meeting listed on tonight's agenda under the title Omnibus Vote Designation. Alderman Dorchenez, second by Alderman Jones. Discussion or comment? Roll call, please.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Ray Coontz.
Yes.
Martin Voda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Larry Budd.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Okay, the minutes we'll be approving will be the minutes of the regular meeting held October 20th, 2014, minutes of the Street and Sewer Committee meeting held October 23rd, 2014, and minutes of the Public Facilities Committee meeting held October 23rd, 2014. Entertain a motion to approve those minutes. Alderman Bertle, second.
Second.
Alderman Budd. Okay, wake up. Any discussion?
Gotta do it all.
Roll call, please.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Ray Coontz.
Yes.
Martin Voda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Larry Budd.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Okay, first thing we have is Plan Commission recommendations. I'd ask Mr. Bill Harriman to please address the council.
Mr. Mayor, the Planning and Zoning Commission met and discussed the request of Steve Henry to make a special use at 927 West Park Boulevard. As you know, he's purchased that property and cleaned it up immensely, and he now wants to use it, get a special use to use it as a parking lot. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously to recommend that the City Council grant him said special use.
Questions from the alderman? Roll call, please. Oh, wait, I guess I need a motion to accept that, don't I?
Second.
Alderman
Accept the
Dorchenez,
recommendation of the Planning Commission.
second by Alderman Jones. Now discussion. Alderman Walters.
Thank you, Your Honor. I had requested that our HBO officer, George Calvin, provide me with a picture of that location, which I now have. And it appears that looking at this, the property that was purchased was 75 feet by 100 foot. It's not real clear, but my point would be that based upon the sketch that was given to us, I would need something that actually delineates the actual measurements of how much length we're going to have going north and south on the Cheney Street side, how much length we're going to have going east and west on the Park Boulevard side, and conversely going back up north. So we need some dimensions on there to show exactly where that is going to be. We also don't show on the sketch where the ingress and egress is going to be to get into the actual parking lot. It's a portion that says driveway, whether it be an entrance to get in there to park off of Cheney Street as well as off of Spresser Street. It doesn't really clearly show that. I'm in favor of the project. I just need additional information to clarify it. And I think that we probably have Superintendent White is here tonight. We might be able to ask him, if I may, Your Honor. Superintendent Wiseman, do we have the storm sewer there behind Mr. Henry's property that if we need to tap into it, he can tap into a storm sewer on the Cheney Street side or the
closest one's on Powers.
on Powers? Okay, so there's nothing there. All right. And then also I'd like to know if, based on what he's trying to accomplish in there, if that would necessitate by extending the rest of the sidewalks down on that property. So that's
Okay.
the part that I would request that we need additional information on. And again, I support the project, it's just not clear enough in my mind to satisfy what I just asked for.
Alderman Coons.
Thank you, Your Honor. The only concern I have, which was already addressed in another meeting, but for the record here, was the drainage issue, which I believe Mr. Cowart's going to check on that. So if he's comes back with positive information on that, I'm all for this. Thank you.
Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Rob Heatherling.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Ray Coontz.
Yes.
Martin Voda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Clarification, Your Honor, is this to accept it as presented by the planning commission? And will my comments then be directed at a following meeting?
I think it could be, when we talk to our city engineer, I think you'd run your questions by him and tell him what you need. I think what we're approving right now is just the special use for the parking itself.
Okay, but that being said, then I'll vote for that.
Well, if you're considering the ordinance that's before you, that actually declares a special use, and if you
Right.
vote in favor of it, it is as is presented to the planning commission.
Okay, but there's a difference between the special use and if we need a site plan, right? We're asking whether he can park here,
Correct,
correct? Okay, and can the property be used for that reason?
yes.
I mean, all the other unknowns, I mean, you don't bring them all to the same meeting, otherwise we'd have a different type of meeting here. Right now, the question before us is, can it be used for that special purpose, correct?
Well, it does say it's subject to all the applicable zoning requirements, so if your thought this type of project would require a site plan, then yes, additional things would be added to that,
Yeah.
if that's what your thought.
Well, and we
But
don't
I
know.
mean, there's
until
no
we-
improvements except a
Right.
fence that's gonna be put on, as I understand. It's not like a
Right.
building, so,
And paving.
and paving, so I didn't know if your site plan would actually govern that, but if you think it is, I didn't review it today, so.
Sure. Well, I mean, we don't know if we need one. I mean, this was the step one because, as George pointed out during the meeting, why would you charge someone for this meeting and tell them to go ahead and start getting, paying for a site plan, only to find out that we weren't going to allow the special use?
Okay.
So,
All right.
well, we're still going through a vote here. So,
Based on that, I'll take it at face value that we will have additional requirements. I'll vote yes.
okay.
And I think you can, just to make it clear, so everyone's on board, under this particular ordinance, just add a subparagraph F that says, subject to, and a site plan to be considered and for approval at a future date,
If needed.
if needed,
Okay.
with that amendment, perhaps.
Alderman Dorchenez, you want to amend your motion to add that paragraph?
Yes.
Okay. Alderman Jones, amend your second?
Yes.
Okay. Pam, I'd ask you to recall the roll, if you would.
Okay. Rob Heatherling.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Ray Coontz.
Yes.
Martin Voda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Okay, the next resolution I'm going to hold until we get to the public facilities. Let's go to the resolution, the intergovernmental cooperation agreement with Taylorville Park District.
I'll make that motion, Your Honor.
Okay, can I get a second on that?
Second.
Alderman Bud, discussion or comment?
I'll just briefly comment, Your Honor, is
Okay.
that the reason this is coming back before you is that when the document came back from the Park District, it was not signed by an official of the Park District, a president, if you will. And Mr. Broverman, their attorney, was not aware that that had been actually executed. So when it was brought to his attention, he wanted to take it back to the board, which they did. They've now approved it, and it requires for the mayor, they asked us to do this over and have their president sign it. That's why it's before you again.
So for clarification, probably my motion should be to approve the resolution.
Yes,
Right.
right.
Okay, any other questions? Roll call.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Ray Coontz.
Yes.
Martin Voda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Ernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherling.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Next, we have an ordinance authorizing an amendment to the Taylorville Christian County Enterprise Zone Intergovernmental Cooperation Agreement with Christian County. Entertain a motion to approve that ordinance.
I'll make
So
that.
moved.
Alderman Walters, second by Alderman Heberlin, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Discussion or comments? City Attorney, would you like to make a comment?
Just briefly, gentlemen, this is the paragraph language is what the language that the mayor and I presented to one of the committees of the county board. It has gone through their process, and the state's attorney has informed me that they are approving of this. So this will then allow you to do those kinds of economic incentives outside the scope of the enterprise zone that you guys have talked about earlier. So.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Ray Coons.
Yes.
Martin Voda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Ray Bud.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
The motion passes 8-0. And we'll also, for now, skip the next one and keep that with public facilities as well. We'll move on to the motion regarding the purchase of a 2007 321 CLCR hydraulic excavator by Street and Water Departments. Alderman Walters, second by Alderman Dorchenez. Discussion.
I'd like to address that, if I may, Mr. Mayor, is that I've handed out to you today, with your consent, as I understand, the city clerk and I had a considerable discussion about this. This type of a purchase does require a resolution. I brought it there before you. It does require a 6 to 8 vote, 2/3 vote, to waive the bidding process, because it's obviously over $20,000, purchase of personal property. It doesn't make any difference if it's new or used. You would normally have to statutorily bid it, but you may go forward with this by voting to waive the bidding, and that's in the resolution, gentlemen.
Okay. So, actually, what we're going to be voting on first would be that resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Motion to adopt that resolution, if that's what you want to do.
That's my motion, Your Honor.
Okay. Alderman Dorchenez, you want to be the second on
Yes.
this? Alderman Dorchenez. Additional discussion before we vote. Alderman Bud.
Is this the motion to
Buy.
agree to purchase the equipment?
Yes.
Then I've got a comment.
Okay, go ahead with your comment.
Okay. I don't have a problem with buying equipment. What I do have a problem with is, and I've seen this piece of equipment, they had it over on Long Street between Elm and I believe it was Ash, or Oak. But the problem of it is half of this is going to come out of the Water Department fund, if I understand it correctly. And we just did a 25% water rate increase. We just bought a new pickup for the Water Department. And tonight, in tonight's bills, we're going to approve $209,588.02 for equipment that was been purchased. And if you put the new sewer truck, you put the pickup and everything, you know, just those, we're sitting at close to $500,000 in equipment here. And I have a problem with spending that kind of money at this time.
Alderman Voda.
Thank you, Your Honor. The sewer department, along with the street, just spent $40,410 on a pickup truck that was approved last city council meeting. Hasn't come through the bills yet, but when it does, I'll vote no on that also, because I just didn't agree with the purchase of a truck that wasn't a like for like. I did talk with Mr. Wiseman, pretty good detail about my druthers and what would have gotten me to approve that, and I think he was on board with where I was at. Currently, the unit you have, correct me if I'm wrong, we're paying $10,000 for monthly rental. Is that what it is, $10,000 for 1 month?
It's 4.
That's for 4 months?
No, 4,000 per month.
Okay, so we have $10,000 that will be, if this pursues, that will be given us in the way of credit toward this purchase.
That's not correct. You've only paid, if you look at the, and I think Mr. Spiegel will bear this and Mr. Wiseman will bear that out. If you look at the proposal that they provided to the city, you get a $10,000 credit for lease payments, parentheses, if paid. And accordingly, you've only paid $6,120. That's why you'll see in the resolution the difference between that and $10,000. You're actually paying if you do this, it's $100,380. If I understand the way the memo was proposed to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
One of the other things I did talk to Mr. Wiseman about was the justification for purchase as opposed to continued lease. And I'm still wanting you to explain why it is better to purchase this and move forward with a piece of used equipment that, yes, I believe it's got a 2-year warranty on it, if I remember correctly, that if we have something major go wrong after that, the city is looking at putting a lot of money into it.
And how often would we, if we didn't purchase, how often would we actually be looking at renting this piece of equipment? Is it something we would have to do, and how much would we be looking at in an annual purchase or rental? Any ideas?
If we went to do the 40 taps that we hired out to do last year, and we started doing them ourselves, we probably average like 20 times, or 20 taps a year at the most. So you're talking probably use of 2 to 3 months a year, at least, just doing taps. Because we've used it for 2 months in Ward 1 doing sewers that we couldn't have got even with ours because ours is too big to get in.
No, bear with me if you would. Now, these taps that we are doing with this machine currently, are these taps that have to be done, or are these those that you TV'd and said that they should be done?
No, these are, what we've been doing is the ones that had the tiles had collapsed in the alley.
Okay.
We replaced 80 feet in one, 25 in another. We've replaced a couple manholes. That's what we've used it for the last 2 months for.
Okay, and this has been used previously in years, over the years, we've rented this type of equipment?
No, we've used ours, but it takes longer because our machine is bigger, and sometimes when you're working, you have to cram out to get spun around so you can load it on a truck and then cram back in. It takes 3 times as long.
Okay, and the urgency that this is being placed on tonight's city council as opposed to going back to committee for discussion and questions and answers is due to the fact that we have the rent that's hanging out there. Is that what it is?
Yep.
Okay, the other thing that does concern me about this is the fact that we're looking at utilizing MFT funds for your part of the purchase of this, and I guess we're using the funds out of the water fund to purchase on your behalf. Is that correct? Okay, then the MFT is where I have some issues at, because the MFT funds are designed to help not only, basically to make sure our roads in this community are maintained properly. Is that correct?
Yes, but we've used MFT funds for helping out the general fund in the past. We take money out of the general fund, put it back, or out of the MFT and put it in the general fund, so we can buy equipment or use it for helping the general fund out.
Okay. Well, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Alderman Heberly.
If I understand correctly, this purchase is going to be over $100,000. Is that correct? 103,000, I think. What'd you say?
I think 100,000, 380.
100,003.
380.
And if I heard Mr. Wiseman correctly, he only needs this about for 2 months out of the year.
It all depends, if I can speak, it all depends. Sometimes the other hose, we have two hoses that will dip out pits, and a lot of times they're fighting over the hose, because the lake may need it, the water may need it, and I may need it.
Yeah.
And the John Deere doesn't do me any good that we're trading in. It does the reach across my pit, so I gotta have a cap. That's the biggest one, got the most reach, so if he's got it somewhere else, then I gotta go use it, so I can't wait, I gotta have it, and that's the issue to get into. That's why I went in as long as we traded John Deere in, because then I can have more access to it and get it when we need it. So this John Deere is doesn't do me much good.
Rental rate on this is $4,000 a month. Is that what you said?
So
So if you would need it 3 months out of the year, that's $12,000 a year versus a purchase of $100,000 a year.
if you can get it at that time. A lot of times they don't have this, it's already rented out. If we took it back by now, it's probably be rented out to somebody else, and you may wait quite a while to get it.
That's kind of part of the urgency thing too, is if we're not using it, they want it back. They don't want it set here because they want to put it, it's a compact, that's the difference between it, that's what it says, the compact, and it turns about 8 inches over the track as opposed to 3 foot as compared to that.
Yeah. I don't want to get into the sewer repair business. I think we can get it hired done a whole lot cheaper than $100,000 purchase for a piece of equipment. I'll be voting no. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Kuntz.
Just for clarification, you guys said you've had this for 2 months, correct? been, this is the first we've basically heard about this as far as purchasing this, and if you guys have had this for 2 months.
We've been talking about it for quite a while.
I have to check the minutes, but if I'm not mistaken. I'll be voting no at this time.
Alderman Jones.
The piece of equipment that we're going to replace with this is a 1973. What would it cost to rebuild it should the motor go?
$10,000 for just the motor.
That's just to get a motor in it. And if for some reason we would have to rent this, whether you rent it for 2 weeks or you rent it for a month, it's $4,000 just to get it on site. I don't know if you amortize that over a 10-year period, you've more than paid for that piece of equipment. Matter of fact, it'd be $120,000 if you did it that way. I don't know. I hate when things like this come to us, but I also don't like not having the equipment available for us. The fact that you're taking 3 times longer to do that, and we are in the sewer business. We've got a street and sewer department. We are in the sewer business. That's what they've been doing down there, is replacing sewer that's failed. That's our job, whether we hire it out or we do it ourselves. If we hire it out, then we're paying somebody to do it. If our guys do it, then we're saving money on the time. So I think, you know, like I said, I don't like the way that it came up, and I don't like the hurry things, but the fact that this is going to replace a piece of equipment that's 40 years old or older, actually 42 years old now. I don't know. I think that it makes sense.
Alderman Bertle.
Yeah, I want to agree with Alderman Jones. I think that, you know, the way it comes up, I don't think anybody likes that necessarily. I think it always behooves us to take it through committee and everybody get a chance to speak on it and all that good thing. Sometimes that doesn't work out, and this is where we end up with it. But the fact that we got 2 superintendents sitting out in the audience that are requesting the same piece of equipment, that there's an urgency because they both use the piece of equipment that they're wanting to trade in, tells you that it's not somebody that's got a pet project here to trying to ramrod through here. And I think it was a conversation from the street department when we bought the last pickup truck that we should be looking into used equipment. And here they come back with a piece of used equipment that fits the bill for what they need to use it for. And now we're questioning the used piece of equipment and warranty and what it could take to rebuild another one. And, you know, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, although I do understand the urgency part of it. If they need the piece of equipment to do their job, and there's 2 superintendents asking for the same piece of equipment, I think that's enough information to move forward on.
Okay. Alderman Dorchenez.
I'm in favor of purchasing this piece of equipment. I went down and they were using it in my ward recently. Went down and looked at it. Asked some questions about it. One of the problems is when they put this piece of equipment down an alley, if you don't have the smaller turning radius, then you can't use the current one. You got to use something like this, and that's why they're leasing it. Also, to lease it, it's very expensive to lease, and you got 2 departments that are going to be using this equipment. It's going to help Mr. Spiegel a lot, and so I'm for it.
Anyone else? Alderman Voda.
I don't believe it's a question whether it's used or not. I think the question on the table is the amount that we're paying for it and where the funds are coming from. I think that's my concern. I mean, if the equipment is used, if it was new, it is not the relevant issue at this point. My questioning is the amount of money that's being paid for this piece of equipment at a time when we keep cutting budgets. And I appreciate the fact that they do look at a used piece of equipment, and it does have the potential 48-month warranty. I think that's a plus. My concern is the number of dollars we're spending to save time in Mr. Wiseman's case, rather than go back and forth to the truck from one end of the site to the other. And in Mr. Spiegel's case, he's getting by without it at this time. I don't know if that's a benefit or not. But at this time, it's questionable, is this the just cause to spend this money at this time? That's all I have to say.
Any questions before we vote? Roll call.
Martin Voda.
No.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
No.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherling.
No.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Ray Coontz.
No.
4 to 4, so we need 2/3.
Motion fails.
So my motion fails. Okay. All right. Moving on to the next motion regarding the storm sewer in the formal industrial park. This is on South Central Avenue.
I'll make that motion, Your Honor.
On Walters. Second? Second?
Second.
Alderman Dorchenez. Discussion or comment? Roll call. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead, Alderman Dorchenez. And then
I wasn't convinced that we necessarily needed to do this project next. I wanted Mr. Wiseman to provide me with a list of priorities of the work that remained to be done. And took a ride with Mr. Wiseman, went out and looked at the situation that they've got out there. And they've been hurting for a long time. And this is going to improve that area tremendously. So I'm in favor of it.
Alderman Voda.
I'll echo Mr. Dorchenez's words. I did take the ride with Superintendent Wiseman, and I appreciate his time because he did take me through several, not just this project, but several projects we have in the works. One of the questions I did bring up was related to, once we get this out there, the potential of actually extending that going west toward the airport, because we're on septic out there as opposed to sewer. I don't know if you had a chance to follow up on that. But this is going to allow us to potentially tie in the other side of Spresser Street and pick up potential customers on that side. So I do support this.
Anyone else? Alderman Heatherling.
I wasn't able to,
Storm sewer. Yes,
Right.
I'm sorry.
I wasn't able to attend the last street and sewer meeting, but it seems like several years ago, we spent money out there to develop a detention pond and a lift station. What has happened to that detention pond and lift station? That was put in to alleviate the problems that White Line Trucking had at that time before they built their most recent building.
I can help part of that, then I'll turn it over to Superintendent Wiseman. The lift station is non-functioning, and the retention pond has been farmed over, and we've had to go back in there one time and dig it out, and now it's been farmed over again, so it's lost its effectiveness. And also on that side of the street, we could not come to an agreement for easements with a certain realtor here in town. So by going the other side of the street, we don't have to do anything with an easement. And by going on that side of the street, we will take care of the telephone company office, we will take care of Seth McMillan's business, we will take care of White Line Trucking, we will take care of, what's the food company? Watson out there, and the potential to help out the airport property.
Alderman Heatherling.
I am not necessarily opposed to this project, but I don't want to spend $100,000 out there and then we not take care of it. Like we did not take care of the detention pond and evidently did not take care of the lift station.
That wasn't our, I'm sorry, it wasn't our lift station.
It was our lift station at the time, then after the industrial park sold out, everybody was told it went back to the person that bought the property. And nobody maintained the lift station and it went to pot. And then the farmer, the person that bought the ground, started farming the holding pond, and it's filled in. And it don't hold enough water to keep it off of that White Line Trucking or nothing.
So since they didn't maintain it and we have to bail them out by putting in a new stormwater sewer, that sounds like is what we're doing.
Well, except for the where the detention pond itself was, that's the farmer's property, right?
That's the farmer's property.
Yeah, so it's not any of the businesses.
Well, the businesses don't belong to us either. I mean, we're the one putting in the storm water sewer to take care of their problem, which I'm okay with. But if they don't want to help us take care of these things that help them, are we wasting our money by putting in $100,000 worth of storm sewer?
No, because it's all gravity fed. It will maintain itself.
So nothing's gonna wash into this thing?
I'm not gonna say it's not gonna wash into it, I'm saying, you're gonna get the same drainage that you're gonna get silt into it, just like you would on any ditch, because you're gonna have ditches out there still. But no, it's gonna drain that area, I'll guarantee you that.
Why, I don't have qualms about it draining the area, I just think that when we spend all this money, and if you just take a look at what we've done over the past years, and people don't cooperate and keep trash out of the drains, it does us no good to put this stuff in.
But I mean.
And it sounds like we haven't had much cooperation out there.
That's because when the economic development sold that area out there, it went back to the farmer, and the farmer don't care, he's looking at a corn crop, he's not looking at holding the water.
All right, thank you.
Alderman Bertle?
I just got a question on the installation of this. The current excavating equipment that we have, are we gonna have to lease the piece of equipment you just got denied for?
No?
Okay.
Alderman Doyle?
Just clarification, for the media specifically, because I know Randy's picking all this up. The sewer that I mentioned regarding the airport is sanitary, and I brought that up with Mr. Wiseman at that time, just in case it was a reasonable and feasible expense, that we at that time had the equipment out there, we would possibly do it at that time. Thank you.
Alderman Koontz?
After having some time to actually look this over, which I do appreciate the additional information that's been presented, I can support this now. Thank you.
Alderman
I
Bud?
I went with Dick today, and I'm okay with the project, but I asked him if he had gotten any quotes from material from anybody else. You know how I am about quotes. And how do we know that we're getting the best price? There's several businesses that make the 36-inch concrete culverts. You're gonna do some plastic pipe in there. There's several businesses that and I asked him for the quotes of where we know that we're getting the best price on these materials. We're gonna furnish the labor and the equipment, but we need to make sure that we're getting the best quote on these materials. And I'd like to see that. And I support the project. It needs done out there. And that floods up pretty bad. I've seen it out there probably 2 foot deep or more.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to add a couple of comments to follow with what Alderman Bud is saying. This is a contract in excess of $20,000. You're going to have to, again, vote by 6 to 8 vote to waive the bidding requirement. Otherwise, it is statutorily required that you put this out for bid. I do notice your motion doesn't say who you're buying it from anyway.
Right, you're talking about the different materials for the project.
Right.
Okay. So we will be bidding for the property, so now we're just basically taking a vote for permission to go ahead with the project, right? So that you can order the materials. And these are estimates about what the project would cost if we do the work. Okay. Anybody else? Roll call.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherling.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Ray Coontz.
Yes.
Martin Voda.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Next, we have a motion regarding the meeting dates for the September, for the Street and Sewer Committee and the Public Facilities Committee meetings held in November and December.
I'll make that motion with some comments on that, Your Honor.
Okay, second by Alderman Koontz. Go ahead with your comment.
My comments that we discussed at the meeting, because of the holidays and the way that they run, that meeting would typically fall on the fourth Thursday, which is Thanksgiving. So in talking with Clerk Peabody, if we need to have a meeting, we could set up a tentative date. I'd like to set up a tentative date for the November meeting of Monday, the 24th of November.
Okay.
And then the December meeting would be strictly a tentative, no set date. If we need to have a meeting for some reason at that point in time, then we can call a meeting and set a meeting date. If we don't have any really pressing business, we'll just forego a street and sewer committee meeting for the month of December.
Alderman Koontz?
I'm fine with those dates for public facilities as well.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Let's take a roll call.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherling.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Ray Coontz.
Yes.
Martin Voda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Brings us to city attorney updates.
4 quick things, gentlemen. First thing is just a reminder to you to take it to your cemetery board, I suppose, to come up with an investment policy so we can get that process approved for you guys to, I know that your investment company is wanting to go forward, but without a written investment policy, you need to take some action on. Mr. Calvert is sitting in the back room. I'm surprised that he's here. He said he wasn't going to be here because he knew I was going to talk about him tonight. I think he needs to be commended. I think he reported to me tonight. He had dropped off in my office to take some action on property at 1105 West Franklin that needed some, take him to court and get the work done. And Mr. Calvert rushed to my office today to proudly announce that he's talked to the owner. It has changed hands. They have removed the trash and debris. It's being removed as we speak. And the plans are that they're going to remodel the place, put up new windows and sidings, and so the problem is going to be resolved. There'll be no legal action taken. I think he can thank Mr. Calvert for his tactful pressure putting on the landowners to get the job done. So, he did not want me to say that, but I think. Thirdly, you've gotten emails from me, and I think we're on track now on this credit collection policy on the ordinance violations. What I sent to you, if you could figure out, well, there had to be another motion in order because when the credit collection company put together the list that they were going to take over, they inadvertently picked up about 40-some cases that didn't belong to the city of Taylorville, and which meant that they were starting to collect some things that, with the payment orders have been vacated. When it was brought to the clerk's attention and the judge's attention, we had to backtrack and redo some of the stuff. It is now in full operation, so we should be seeing some benefits soon. And then finally, last Wednesday, the mayor, Alderman Vota, and Bill Newberry and I had another conference call with Illinois EPA attorney and with some of their officials to get some further clarification of their settlement proposal. We're still awaiting a little bit feedback coming back. I haven't gotten it yet. As to the question we had was some cost for some fencing. Is that why wasn't it in the list of approved dollars for us to get for the purchase of the fence? And they think it is. They had to go back and trace it. We talked about some legal language to put into a settlement contract should we reach one with Mr. Laker and with Cam and Mr. Miracle. We're hopeful if they get back to us within a couple of weeks, we'll have that information in hand. Then I can put a detailed memo to you folks by email so you can take a look at it well enough ahead of any vote on it. But we're coming to a closure pretty quick, we think, if we can get Mr. Laker and Mr. Miracle to go along with it. And we'll just have to wait and see what Mr. Laker, he's had a conversation with the mayor, and at least the last conversation was we thought that the numbers we were talking about may be acceptable, but we don't have that in writing yet. So that's our update.
Thank you so much.
Any questions?
The only question I have is you said couple weeks. And I thought last week thought maybe middle of this week we'd have something to.
Yeah, it didn't happen. I don't have it.
Because I did talk with one of the parties today, and I kind of told him, I said, well, maybe by midweek you might hear something.
I can make another phone call, but you were on the same phone call that, well, I know Martin was, but you had another engagement at some point.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we were told we were going to get right back to us, but
Right.
we haven't gotten it yet. So that's it.
Other questions? Okay, moving on to mayor updates. I want to congratulate once again the Taylorville football team for their first round playoff win against Triad Saturday night. It was quite a game. Quick congratulations to who's now a former employee, Marilyn Garman. She retired from the city after 26 years of service. The majority of those years were working in the police department as the dispatcher and then the records clerk, and she got out of here with her sanity, I believe, and so we congratulate her on that. And then many of you have probably already taken care of it, but if you haven't, remember to vote tomorrow. Based on the commercials I've seen, just about every candidate in the major races should probably be doing jail time, but that's who we must choose from, so make sure you vote tomorrow. So that's all I got. Let's move on to committee reports. Yes, Alderman Walters.
Could I first one additional piece of information? We put a lot of emphasis on the Taylorville High School football team, rightly deserved, but for the third year in a row, the Taylorville High School cross-country team has had a member qualify for the state of Illinois meet.
Fantastic.
And it just so happens that my son is the cross-country coach, and I help on that team. But I think that's very good. It's not supposed to get a lot of recognition. I think it should. So next Saturday, we'll be going to Peoria for the state meet, and we had Mr. Curtin, a young boy by the name of Curtin from Stonington area, quite a runner, and he qualified for the state of Illinois meet.
That's great. Great. All right, moving on to committee reports. Discussions and or motions to approve, adopt, and/or deny, and/or table, and/or amend, and/or refer to an appropriate committee in whole or in part the matters regarding the following subject matters discussed at the committee level. We'll start with Street and Sewer Committee.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to make a motion to direct the city attorney to prepare an ordinance placing a stop sign on North Abbey Street, southbound direction of West Elm Street, and the Hathaway Home subdivision.
Okay, can I get a second on that?
Second.
Alderman Vota.
Thinking the safety of my constituencies.
Discussions. Roll call.
Sean Bertle,
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez,
Yep.
Rob Heatherly,
Abstain.
Bruce Jones,
Yes.
Ray Coontz,
Yes.
Martin Voda,
Yes.
Earl Walters,
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 7 in favor and 1 abstention.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the sum of $400,000 of motor fuel tax funds for the purpose of maintaining streets and highways under the applicable provisions of the Illinois Highway Code from January the 1st of 2015 to December the 31st of 2015.
Okay, got that motion. Can I get a second? Alderman Coons, discussion or comment? Roll call.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly,
Yes.
Bruce Jones,
Yes.
Ray Coontz,
Yes.
Martin Voda,
Yes.
Earl Walters,
Yes.
Larry Bud,
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
The next motion, Your Honor, that I'll make, I'd like to preface it first, I'd like to make a correction to it or an addition to it. But the motion, as originally presented, I believe it was by Alderman Coombs, motion to allow Superintendent Wiseman to purchase a cover for the street department salt shed at a cost not to exceed $10,000. We'd like to amend that to be $11,000 because of the additional supports and the additional warranty on that particular tower.
Okay. Can I get a second on that?
Second.
Second by Alderman Bertle. Discussion or comment? Roll call.
Rob Heatherly,
Yes.
Bruce Jones,
Yes.
Ray Coontz,
Yes.
Martin Voda,
Yes.
Earl Walters,
Yes.
Larry Bud,
Yes.
Sean Bertle,
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
Last motion I'll make, Your Honor, is a motion to allow Superintendent Wiseman to proceed with lining 26 feet of storm sewer at Second and Washington Streets at a cost not to exceed $12,800.
Okay, got a second on that? Second by Alderman Bertle. Discussion or comment? Roll call.
Bruce Jones,
Yes.
Ray Coontz,
Yes.
Martin Voda,
Yes.
Earl Walters,
Yes.
Larry Bud,
Yes.
Sean Bertle,
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez,
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Moving on to public facilities.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll have one motion to make, a motion to approve the city of Taylorville, was DOYP agreement with Computer Techniques Incorporated for a term of 5 years upon review of the city attorney. And I'd like to place that motion.
Okay, Alderman Coons. Second?
Second.
Alderman Heberlin. Now, I did briefly speak with the city attorney, and he has a conflict regarding
Yes.
myself, so we would need to amend or change that to allow him to go ahead and give us an opinion on that, being aware of the conflict. Allow us
My
to go
office,
ahead.
just so the council realizes this, my office represents CTI. At least my partner does their work. We did not prepare this contract, so I can't speak to that. But I think in terms of my code of ethics, I would, and this was just brought to my attention last week that you were doing this, is that I would need to get the CTI's permission to comment on this agreement, and making recommendations to you. If
They're
they
right behind
refuse
you.
that, what's that?
They're right behind you.
Oh.
Go for it.
I might steal your attorney. Well, if they're gonna be okay with it, then
All right.
I can, if you approve this, then I can review it and make some suggestions, and
Okay.
if both sides are in agreement, you can go forward with it.
Okay.
It's a pretty straightforward agreement as far as I read it, but you know me, I like to tweak things.
Any other comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Ray Coontz,
Yes.
Martin Voda,
Yes.
Earl Walters,
Yes.
Larry Bud,
Yes.
Sean Bertle,
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez,
Yes.
Rob Heatherly,
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
If you'd like to go to the resolution, Your Honor.
Right, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to pass a resolution, host the DOYP agreement with Computer Techniques Incorporated.
Second.
Second by Alderman Heberlin. Discussion or comment?
And you'll point out in that section 1, it's in such of this form as the mayor is hereafter approved. So if there is going to be any changes, then you would approve it, and they would approve it.
Right.
So,
All right, roll call, please.
Martin Voda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Ray Coontz.
Motion passes 8-0. And then
Finally,
there's-
Your Honor, we have the motion regarding the police recorder for the new phone system that we put on hold to make sure that the original phone system would be approved first.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion on that.
All right, go second.
Second.
We have Alderman Bertle. Discussion or comment?
Comment.
Roll, go ahead, Alderman Heberlin.
And the cost on this is like 14,800
I
or
think
something
so.
like that?
I believe, if I may,
Yeah.
in the chief's memo, it says 14,275, and I believe that treasurer can correct me, that's coming out of his budget, correct?
Thank
It's
you.
in the budget
Right.
for
Alderman Voda.
Adam, this is because of the voice over IP, is that correct? That we are having to upgrade this piece of equipment?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Roll call.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Bruce Jones?
Yes.
Ray Coontz.
Yes.
Martin Voda.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Moving on to Personnel Committee.
Your Honor, we had a motion to bid and/or advertise a heavy equipment operator position at the lake, and offer that as a motion.
Second by Alderman Bertle. Discussion or comment? The only comment is this is to replace someone that
Yes.
left that position, so it's not an additional employee. Roll call, please.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Rob Heatherly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Ray Coontz.
Yes.
Martin Voda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
I have a motion to approve the minutes of the November 3rd, 2014 Personnel Committee meeting.
Get a second on that?
Second.
Bertle, discussion or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against, motion passes. Finally, we have a motion to approve and ratify payment of bills in the amount of $477,077.57.
Make that a formal motion, Your Honor.
Alderman Bud,
With
a
comment?
second.
Second.
Second by Alderman Bertle. Go ahead with your comment, Alderman Bud.
Insurance for all departments, $102,326.86. The healthcare tax, $3,157.58. Travelers for general liability, $42,710.50. Illinois Public Risk, December workers' comp, $26,698. Total for insurance this time is $174,892.94. Electric, $8,093.71. Telephone, $1,094.34. Garbage, $1,508. Unique temporary help, $2,752.64. Walmart, Ron's and petty cash for miscellaneous, $2,199.88. Attorney fees, $6,000. Tyler Technologies, $1,591.10. IMCO for utility supplies, $1,821.23. Altor for $4,761.46. Pop and Pull, $3,944.50. Fresno Brothers, $4,023.06. Tollus, $10,585.55. Midwest Meter, $5,760.07. Police Department, Bob Writings for 4 police cars, $102,880, and miscellaneous comes to $102,923.48. CDS Technology for computers, $47,490. Patrick 41 for equipment installation, $3,000. Allied Concepts for radar units, $4,107. Global Technology for radio and accessories, $4,569.48. The Fire Department, Max Fire and Safety, $956.65. Street Department for ZEP Manufacturing for supplies, $1,167.05. Sewer Department, CMB Bank, Vector Truck loan payment, $47,498.06. Water Department, American Water Testing for supplies, $1,060. Chemicals, $14,495.97. And these all total to $456,296.17.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Sean Bertle.
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes.
Mark Beverly.
Yes.
Bruce Jones.
Yes.
Ray Coontz.
Yes.
Martin Voda.
Yes.
Earl Walters.
Yes.
Larry Bud.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Alderman Bud, you'd mentioned that you wanted to bring up
Yes.
something.
I got a call Friday afternoon about the gas smell on Esther Street, and this has been an ongoing problem for quite some time. We all know where I live at, and there's days that I can smell it sitting on our porch. Fortunately, I've not smelled it in our house, but if we're sitting out on the front porch, it's bad. And I don't remember your name, so, okay. But she has dealt with this problem for 10 years and has put at least $6,000 of her money in trying to solve what she thought was her problem, but it appears to be the sewer problem out in the street. I know that I've only been on here since May of last year, but I know we've talked about the way to help with this problem is the north sewer line, and we've got the prison that comes in through the city and goes down and through the hospital area through there and then heads on out. And the only way to really correct a lot of this is to put in the new sewer line. And it's my understanding that it's about $3 million to put this sewer line in. Well, we all know we don't have $3 million sitting right here to go put the sewer line in. But they do have a concern on Esther. If any of you have been over there when this sewer smell is there, it's pretty strong. And those people have to deal with it on a regular basis over there. And I told her I would bring it up in front of the city council tonight. I don't know if you've called all the aldermen or not, but
I started with you, and then I just thought I'd come tonight and then see, do I have to continue to be a pain too? Honestly. I mean, like, I've dealt with this for 10 years. I have not personally lived over there for 10 years. It was a rental property that I just moved in September. But since I've owned that for 10 years, when I very first bought that property, and it was a fixer-upper when I bought it. So I bought it to, take one of these dilapidated, houses and make it look bad. I couldn't even hardly stand, that was 10 years ago, putting the siding up on this house because it smelled of sewer so bad. I've lost 3 tenants to the sewer smell at least in the last 10 years. I've lost a sale of this house because of the sewer smell to this house. I just moved in there temporarily in September and plan on putting it on the market next year. If I can even sell the house, because of course I'm gonna have to say Esther has an issue because it smells of sewer, a lot. I've been in there since September. It has to be at least once a week. It used to be, I think, even worse, but okay, Friday, I got off work early at 11 o'clock. I live right on the corner of Chestnut and Esther, so I don't know if that makes it even worse, but it fills my entire house up. I mean, it is disgusting. You would not want to sit on the porch. You would not want your kids to sit out there and play in the yard. I've talked to you before. I have talked to the city before. And 10 years ago, you admitted that there was a problem. And I know there's money issue, there's always going to be money issue. 10 years ago, this sewer probably would have cost $1.5 million. Now it's $3 million. Another 10 years of dealing with it, we're going to be looking at 6. I've already went up and down the street of Esther Street, talking to some of the people who live there. And some of those people have lived there greater than I've owned that house, and they have dealt with it for a number of years. I mean, if you live on that street, it is, my taxes go up all the time because they say that my property values are going up. But let's face it, I don't know how my property values can be going up if you live in that area.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Alderman Walters.
For clarification on that, and Superintendent Wiseman can help me, I believe that line on Esther Street belongs to the Taylorville Sanitary District.
Yes, it does.
It's not a city of Taylorville sewer line. It's the sanitary, and that's the one that they lined, I believe, isn't it? The sanitary district came in there and had engineering work done, and the sanitary district paid to have that line with their own money. It's not our line. It belongs to the TSD. So I would suggest talking to Norm Ramsey.
Can I mention, I actually talked to sanitary multiple times. I talked to the city. Even though they own the line, the way it was explained to me is something that could be possibly done, seeing we don't have $3 million supposedly to fix the sewer and just keep living with it, is what I've been told for 10 years, and I keep telling my tenants. Even though, like I said, it had multiple plumbers, rerouted the entire sewer to that entire house, trying to make sure that there wasn't a leak in that house. But what I was instructed is, there is one thing that the city could do, there is a thing that I'm not quite sure, I'm sure you probably know what I'm talking about, is there's these things called forced mains. And then there's a forced main out of the prison that then pushes into the lake, that then pushes to Pershing, and then pushes all this stagnant sewer down Esther Street. And that's why it had to be lined, because this has been going on for a number of years, and it ate through the concrete. What the sanitary district does maintain the lines, the city is the ones that can deal with these forced mains. And I was instructed, I talked to multiple people, so I can't tell you exactly who I spoke to, but what I was instructed was that since the city maintains these forced mains, there is further work that could be done at these mains out by the prison that could help possibly rectify the amount of sewer that comes down that street at one given time, and maybe that would help the gas because it's been sitting there building all these different fumes up. Now, I don't know if that's
Chemicals.
yeah.
Chemicals, yeah.
And you're right. I mean, it's something we've dealt with for years. We've had this concern, and again, it always has been money, and it always has been us having that discussion. Well, can we get the sanitary district to work with us? And they've all kind of said, well, we've got other projects we've got to work on, and so it's a very real concern, and that's why we have been talking about that 30-inch going around the north part of town, and why it is so important, because that is the most that's the fix that makes the most sense. What she's talking about, yeah, it may make some difference, but it's just a matter of getting that stuff through there on a timely basis, before it continues to ferment. Right now, it's the concentrations are so bad that it's not even safe for, if we did have to send one of our guys down there in a manhole to work, you couldn't do it, and we would lose somebody, seriously, in a matter of seconds. And we definitely don't want this stuff going back into the houses, and I mean, we're all going to feel terrible if that should ever happen, where it goes back in there and an infant, is overcome with the gas or something like that. So it's something we need to take very, very seriously. And again, we'll just need to put it on an agenda. And like I say, guys, at some point we got to bite the bullet and find a way to do this. Now, if there's a better idea, I'm open to it. But that 30-inch line is what was suggested by our city engineer well over 5 years ago. And so we need to take a good hard look at it.
I think, Your Honor, if I can continue with the TSD part of it, the only way that I would be receptive to that is we need to have the TSD come to the table, and even though it's their line and our stuff is going through it, so to speak, it's not our stuff, but okay, we need to have a joint resolution. We can't continue to do all these things by ourselves. We need to finally get TSD to come to the table and discuss it and pony up some money to help.
Alderman Coots.
Being that's my neighborhood as well, I've smelt the smell as well, and I know it's atrocious at times. And I know as far as people who have been on the council before me for quite a while, I know that you guys have done your part as far as what you guys can, you guys have talked about it even before I've been on the council, and I do, as a citizen, I do appreciate that myself. But as you've said many times, Mayor, we're going to have to eventually figure out a solution, and but I appreciate your guys as a team before me, because I do know you guys have worked on this.
Well, there have actually been hundreds of thousands of dollars put into it. I mean, that's why we went through the upgrades of the lift stations and things out that direction, hoping that would help a little bit. And actually, the lining the sanitary district put in, it didn't help the problem. It just kind of pushed it on down the line a little bit. That line had deteriorated so much that the gas used to escape completely in your neighborhood and wouldn't make it down that far. At least as lining kind of kept pushing it down a little bit, so that's why now our wonderful new hospital also gets to deal with it at times as well.
And on the first floor, sometimes when you went down there, it was pretty foul.
Yeah.
I mean, you used to turn on Esther Street all the way down on Pawnee or off Cherokee, and you smelled it as soon as you turned. I was moving into the neighborhood the other day, in September, and there's kids riding their bikes down. And I even overheard a conversation with them saying, this is why I hate riding our bikes down this street, because it always stinks. Yeah. I mean, it's a situation that 10 years ago, I believe it was probably you that I even spoke to 10 years ago. It's going to, this is something that's on the table, and I appreciate you putting it out there again now, but, is there really going to be follow-up? I mean, we're on 10 years now, and...
Sure. And it's a very good question. I mean, let's face it, the sanitary district is looking at raising rates by over 50%. And that basically does nothing for this kind of problem. That's just basically to fix up existing structures right now and upgrade them.
I mean, you said yourself, and I mean, and I'm a nurse, and we don't want to get into that subject, but I mean, I'm sure there are statistics out there that talks about the health concerns and the chronic exposure to sewer gas. And that's all I really have to say on that
Sure.
subject.
Well, we're on your side. It's just a matter of finding the money. Alderman Bertle.
I just got a comment. I mean, it sounds like the infrastructure-wise, there's not a whole lot we can do as far as money constraints. But if there's a chemical solution to this, since I've been on the council, I don't remember seeing any kind of information in the bid or a proposal, or has there been?
Yeah.
Maybe
yeah.
we should look at that again, because $3.5 million is about a lot of chemical.
It
will.
was $10,000 a month to try to hopefully solve it, and there was no guarantee.
And that was
we would
5
do it.
years
So if
ago.
that's the case, if we have something that we could propose to the Taylorville Sanitary District,
Sure.
I mean, 5,000 from the city, 5,000 from them, that's some kind of manageable payment, and at least we could try that for a short period of time to see if it even works.
Sure.
And we did back then, they turned us down.
Right. Yeah.
I think it was in about 2010, because I read the minutes to that, so if you want to look at that, I think it was in around 2010, that was brought up about certain chemicals that could be put into that. I mean, I didn't go into detail, that's your guys' job, but there was brought up in 2010 about chemicals.
We even talked to the state
If
to
there's a
see
health
if they
and
would
safety
help.
concern, I think we need to look into that again.
We can, but for about that same amount of money, you could pretty well put that $3 million in there in over a 20-year period of time.
For clarification there, that was the cost per month, that wasn't the cost to put the
Right.
facility in.
Right, exactly. Yeah. All right. I think we've got most of it, but just I'll go ahead and read this. Per paragraph G of 5 ILCS 120/2.06, this portion of the city council meeting is reserved for any person wishing to address the council on any relevant subject matters concerning the city. Would anyone else like to address the council? Seeing no one out there, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Alderman Voda. Second by Alderman Walters. Discussion and comment. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Meeting adjourns 8:02 p.m.